Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think we were gonna get that many questions to answer this time around considering the circumstances, but no, we have 111 questions to get through today, which is an all-time high for this channel. So, without further ado, here it is, the Rappter Q&A number 18. I hope you guys enjoy. Starboy Sean asks, if you could imagine having another job or profession besides YouTube, what would it be? Well, personally, I'm not sure if I would be able to turn YouTube into a real job anyway. It would be awesome if I could, but I just don't think I'd be able to do it. But in terms of my ideal job right now, it would probably be something along the lines of audio, considering that that's what I'm learning in school right now, whether it would be standard audio production or something more like radio, something like that. What are your top 3 favorite Marvel heroes? My top 3 favorites are Nightcrawler, Spider-Man, and Hulk. I've liked a lot of Marvel heroes over the years, but those 3 have pretty much definitively always been at the top for me. What inspired you to start a YouTube channel? Believe it or not, it actually wasn't a YouTuber or a role model or anyone like that that inspired me. It was actually just my friends. They thought it was something that I would be good at, and they encouraged me to do it. In terms of the current content on the channel, though, that would be stuff like Death Battle and other versus debate channels and stuff like that. But in terms of the start of the channel, yeah, it was honestly just my friends. Cinnamon Simon 66 asks, would you rather have the Infinity Gauntlet or the power of the Omega effect? It would 100% be the Infinity Gauntlet. Regardless of which one is more powerful by certain metrics, the Infinity Gauntlet is much more versatile, and I just think I would have a lot more fun with it. Who would win, Liu Kang versus Jago? My knowledge here is fairly limited, but my gut is telling me that Jago would win the fight just because I think that the higher end Killer Instinct scaling is a little more higher end than the higher end Mortal Kombat scaling, especially based on what we've seen from the most recent season of Death Battle. Of course, I could be getting that wrong, and maybe Liu Kang actually has something that would be super effective against Jago, but for right now, I'm still gonna go with Jago. Would you eat a whole 16-ounce steak? I'm actually pretty sure that I've done that before, and I would gladly do it again. Johnny Jokester asks, would you rather be Scorpion or Ghost Rider? Both of these characters suffered immense tragedy, so there's not really a clear upper hand in that area, but I think that being Ghost Rider would be a lot more fun, especially when you factor in the Hell Cycle. I know that as the Spirit of Vengeance, I would have an obligation to kill a lot of people, but characters in Mortal Kombat are killing each other all the time anyway, so I think overall I would want to be Ghost Rider. Silent Sword asks, would you rather be a werewolf or a vampire? I think that in principle, being a vampire would be more fun because there's a lot more abilities that you would have, but then I think about the real ramifications of that. Like, I wouldn't be able to go outside during the day, I would either have to sleep during the day or just stay inside all the time, and I'd be a vampire forever, you know, so that wouldn't be great. When it comes to being a werewolf, though, I would only transform during a full moon, which only happens about once a month, which I think is a lot more manageable than being a vampire for the rest of my undead life. So I would probably say a werewolf for that point alone. Who would win, Lucy versus Godzilla? Definitely Godzilla. It's just as simple as Lucy doesn't have the means to kill Godzilla, and Godzilla really only needs one hit to win, which honestly he should be capable of pulling off eventually. Who would win, Pennywise versus Ghost Rider? I think a big part of that depends on whether or not Pennywise would be able to feed off of any fear that Ghost Rider may or may not have, because if he couldn't, then he would have no power over him, but if he could, then he would be ridiculously powerful. But then again, we also know that Ghost Rider is ridiculously powerful at his maximum potential, and he has stuff like the Penance Stare, which would be just as effective, if not even more effective, than something like the Deadlights. So I think that going for Ghost Rider is the safer answer, but I could definitely see it going the other way. Dapple Zapple asks, can I punch you? Sure, go ahead. Ouch. How life be? Life be okay. Life have ups and life have downs, but, you know, that's life. Can you say no? Fiction Rumble asks, who's your favorite versus debater? Well, obviously my favorite versus debate channel is Death Battle, everybody knows that, but in terms of individual versus debaters, my favorite would probably be either Corin O'Keefe or Leopold the Brave. I think they both make really good content. What's your favorite matchup? Thematically, I think that my favorite versus debate right now is Deathstroke versus Taskmaster. I think they're just both awesome characters, and I think that if they fought each other, it would be a super epic fight while also being super grounded. I think that would just be really cool. What's your least favorite matchup? This may just be because I'm a Marvel and DC fan, because both this answer and last answer involve Marvel and DC characters, but Vision versus Martian Manhunter, I still do not like that fight at all. Not Fred asks, what's one highly requested matchup that you don't want to see appear in Death Battle? Again, I would say Vision versus Martian Manhunter. I don't think these characters have that much in common. The fight itself is just not a close fight at all, and these characters have way better opponents. Especially Vision. I want to see him fight Martian Manhunter. Please, Death Battle, give us that one instead. Blake Peters asks, why do you call yourself the Raptor? The name the Raptor Rappter is really just a stupid play on words I made a long time ago when I was young and dumb, and I just decided to make that my YouTube name after I decided I didn't want to use my actual name as my channel name anymore. If I knew that this was the direction my channel was going to go towards, I probably would not have chosen a name like that, but regardless, this is what a lot of people know me as now, and it gives me my own identity on the internet, and honestly, that's all I would really want. What is the most underrated and overrated death battle in your opinion? The most underrated death battle in my opinion is Doctor Strange versus Dr. Fate. I know some people thought that one was underwhelming, or they thought it was like average at best, but honestly, I thought it was amazing. I got everything I wanted to see out of it. I just thought it was a really cool fight to see happen. In terms of the most overrated death battle, don't hate me for this, I would personally say Goro versus Machamp. I still really like that episode. I thought it was a great episode, but some people absolutely love it, and I'm not sure if I would say it was quite that good. But yes, I still really enjoyed that episode. Mohammed Irfan Perdana, I apologize for butchering your name, asks, what's the story behind your username, the Rappter? Again, this was just a dumb play on words nickname that I gave myself when I was young, and I just decided to change my channel name to eventually. That doesn't even really have any substantial context. But yeah, it's my channel name now, and that's what I'll be known as forever, so yippee. What are your favorite death battles involving Marvel and or DC characters? I typically like most fights that involve those kinds of characters just because I'm most familiar with them. Some of my favorites include Wolverine versus Raiden, Batman versus Spider-Man, Doctor Strange versus Dr. Fate, as I said before, but in terms of this most recent season, I think that both Miles versus Static and Genos versus War Machine were also really, really good. What characters from Western animated TV shows would you like to see in death battle? I think seeing characters from Phineas and Ferb would be really unique and really fun, and plus I just really love the show, so I think it would be awesome. Other shows I wouldn't mind seeing too, though, are Fairly Odd Parents and Gravity Falls. JJ Slider asks, are you more interested in fair versus matchups where the characters aren't overly similar, or matchups where the characters are similar in terms of thematics but not comparable power-wise? For me, the characters in a matchup really need to have some kind of common ground with each other, otherwise I don't really see the point of doing the matchup in the first place. But in terms of priorities, I think it might just depend on the kind of death battle viewer that you are. If you're just a casual death battle fan that is more into the entertainment side of things and you don't do that much research beforehand, then I think a thematic fight would be more appealing, at least at face value. But when it comes to someone like me who's more into the debate side of things, I think I would rather have a more even debate than a landslide. But regardless, I still think that having connections between the characters is extremely important. Would you be interested in making a video about your ideal death battle season regardless of realistic expectations? That's a video I never really considered before, but it does sound pretty interesting. I may consider doing it later sometime down the line, but yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Out of the Super Smash Bros. DLC characters that have been revealed so far, which one appeals to you the most and least? For the most, it's a two-way tie between Terry and Sephiroth. Terry because he's the DLC character that I play the most, and Sephiroth because he's the DLC character that I like the most as a character outside of Smash Bros. In terms of the least though, it would definitely be Byleth, just because I really didn't want one of the last remaining slots of Smash 5 to be taken up by another Fire Emblem character, although I know a lot of people feel that way, so I guess that's not really special. Simon O'Brien asks, do you think the Cookie Monster and Godzilla would be a great duo? No. I know they would be a great duo. Do you find it astounding that no death battle has had a Lord of the Rings character yet? Honestly, I really do, because the franchise is so popular among nerds and geeks, I'm so surprised it hasn't been introduced yet. I do have hope that they will bring in a Lord of the Rings character at some point down the line, and I hope the fight would be really, really good, whatever that fight would be. Do you prefer matchups with similar characters, or matchups with characters that have completely different methods of combat? Like I said before, I really think that a matchup needs to have some kind of similarities at least in order to make it work. I think that a great matchup has both of those things, where they're very similar thematically, but the fight dynamic is really cool because they have very different methods of fighting. But in general, I prefer to have characters that are similar rather than have characters that are very different from each other, but yeah, overall, that's just me. Commander Squirtle asks, what's your favorite custom-made music track that Death Battle has used? Right now, I'm really loving What's Up Danger in Miles vs. Static. I just think it's super creative and it fits the awesome characters really, really well. I also like a lot of other tracks like Emerald Heroes, Way Past Flash, Gods of Destruction, Chorus of Carnage, a lot of different tracks, but right now if I had to pick a favorite, I'm leaning more towards What's Up Danger. Simba Cartoon Fan asks, could Gru vs. Megamind be in Death Battle to commemorate Minions: The Rise of Gru? That is definitely a real possibility. It makes sense to me, and I would definitely want to see that happen, but of course I can't say for sure whether or not it will. Will you be in Death Battle cast? On the show? God, I wish. Probably not, but you know, never say never. What is your favorite community death battle? In terms of just the matchup idea itself, my favorite one that I can remember right now is Rocket Raccoon versus Fox McCloud. I just think it's a really cool and unique fight. Red Elastic 98 asks, which season of Death Battle did you think was the most predictable? In hindsight, season 7 actually had a number of obvious outcomes, especially when it comes to the first half of the season. And then the leak that happened in the second half of the season only made things worse. This is really weird to say, but I don't think we've had another season of Death Battle with this many levels of predictability. So I would actually say season 7 has been the most predictable one so far. What is your most controversial, unpopular opinion? I'm not sure if this is unpopular, but it would definitely be considered controversial among certain people. I personally believe that both main sides of the political spectrum are pretty dumb in their own ways. I obviously have my own opinions on certain social issues and everything like that, but I really don't like to align myself one way or the other. So I guess the unpopular opinion is just that I don't like being political, and you can understand how frustrated I get when it seems like that's all anyone can ever talk about nowadays. Do you prefer punching or kicking as a method of attack? There's definitely something really satisfying about a really strong kick, but personally I prefer using my legs for more mobility purposes and my arms for attacking purposes. Not saying I would never ever kick if I was ever in a fight, but I do prefer punching as a general rule. Geo the Reaper asks, what's your favorite video game? It would have to be Smash Bros. For a long time it was really a toss-up between Super Smash Bros. And Injustice, but I don't play Injustice as much anymore. I never actually owned Injustice 2, whereas I do own Ultimate and I have a lot of fun playing it, so I would say Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is my favorite. Alex Chen asks, have you ever seen a fan-made Flash series called Super Mario Bros. Z? I have actually never heard of that Flash game, but then again I don't play that many Flash games, so that's not really that surprising, but thank you so much for the recommendation. I may give it a try later. Did you hear the announcement about Sephiroth's inclusion in Smash Ultimate? Yes, I did. I actually wasn't watching the live reveal, but my brother was, and he told me about Sephiroth's inclusion immediately after he found out, because he knows that I really like the Final Fantasy characters, and I was really excited to hear the news, especially after the other more recent DLC announcements that I haven't really been that excited for. Seeing that Sephiroth was getting included was just super awesome to see. Bao asks, how do you think Hulk vs. Broly will go in terms of animation? In terms of quality, the animation looks pretty solid based on what I've seen from the trailer, and in terms of what I think will actually happen in the fight, I bet there's going to be a lot of gradual power-ups and a lot of gradual destruction. I hope it will at least be a little longer than normal just because it's the season finale, but yeah, overall I think it will be highly entertaining and just really fun to watch, at least from a visual standpoint. Are you excited for Sephiroth in Smash Ultimate? Yes, again, I was really excited to hear about his inclusion when he was first announced. In terms of me actually playing him though, because I have played him a little bit, I have to admit I am a little disappointed. Not because I think he's designed badly or anything like that, but just because the characters that I'm used to playing are about, you know, rushing in quick, you know, fighting up close with quick attacks and everything like that, whereas Sephiroth really doesn't work with that playstyle at all, so it's really hard for me to play him. I've gotten a little bit better with him over time, but I am a bit disappointed because I really wanted him to be one of my main characters that I play, and it seems like that's probably not going to happen, but you know, whatever. What's on your Christmas wish list if you have one? I don't really have a wish list this year. If I was to put something on it, it would probably be for more pop vinyl figures. I have a ton of pop vinyl figures actually on this table that's right behind you guys. There's a ton of them. Looking at all of them right now, there is a lot. But yeah, I really like collecting them, and they're always just good gifts for me because I like them so much. Tyono DB asks, who do you think wins, Grim, Billy, and Mandy, or Timmy, Cosmo, and Wanda? I don't know that much about Grim, Billy, or Mandy, so I can't really say for sure. I know that Cosmo and Wanda have very specific rules that they have to follow, but I don't know how that compares to Grim's power or anything like that. I'm just spitballing here. This might not be correct in any way, but if Grim has some power over abstract concepts and stuff like that, then I'd want to say that Grim would probably win just because Cosmo and Wanda's rules look like they prevent them from doing stuff like that. But if he doesn't, then again, I can't really say for sure because I don't know how their powers compare to each other. Who are your top picks for Smash Ultimate? My top picks are Wolf, Cloud, Link, Sonic, and Terry. Probably in that order from 1 to 5. Who wins, Rayman or Crash Bandicoot? Based on what I know, I have a feeling that Rayman's higher end feats probably reach a higher level than Crash's higher end feats. I could be getting that completely wrong, but for right now, I'll say Rayman. Gymnast and Gamer Jordan asks, can I give you some battle ideas? Yep, you can absolutely leave me ideas, just leave them down in the comments below. I may not respond to those comments, but I will definitely be sure to look over your ideas. Who do you think wins, Kim Possible versus Dudley Puppet? I never watched either of the shows that much, so it's hard for me to say how strong strong they are, or how their Toon Force stacks up against each other and everything like that. Based on just a fighting skill standpoint alone, I'd probably want to say that Kim would win that fight, but of course I could be getting that completely wrong. What is your favorite Sonic character? I like a lot of Sonic characters, but I honestly just have to go with Sonic on this one. I think he's a really cool guy, and he's just one of my favorite video game icons in general, so it's really hard for me to side against him if I'm being honest. Tristan Waits asks, who wins, Yang versus Lucario? Based on the Ruby that I've watched so far, I want to say that Lucario would probably win that fight, but of course, you know, Yang might have gotten a lot stronger since I stopped watching the show, or she may have gotten stronger in certain ways that I'm not aware of. But of course, I only have what I have to go off of, so as of right now, I'll just stick with Lucario. What's your favorite Sonic character? Again, Sonic. Gotta go fast. Who wins, Kane Parker versus Raphael? Raphael might have greater lifting strength feats if we scale him to Leonardo, but Kane almost certainly has the power advantage and the durability advantage. I'd have a hard time believing Raph could easily break out of the webs, and Kane could just easily disarm Raph. So I think that Kane would probably win that fight. Sappiest Crowd 5 asks, when will Half-Life 3 release? Alright, let's think about this mathematically. So half of 3 is 1.5, so we have 1.5. We also have life, but life has no value, so that's 0. And then 1.5 times 0 equals 0. Okay, nope, sorry. Half-Life 3 is never coming out. Super Mario Plushes asks, who is your favorite Spider-Man villain? Hands down, it's Green Goblin, followed very closely by Carnage. Do you like Godzilla, both in terms of the characters and the movies? A lot of the Godzilla characters seem really rather cool to me, but I will admit I haven't seen all of the Godzilla movies. In fact, I really haven't seen that many at all. But out of the ones that I have seen, I have enjoyed most of them. So yeah, overall, I think I do really like Godzilla. What is your least favorite boss you fought in a video game? My least favorite boss fight is the fight right after getting Reshiram in Pokemon Black. The only reason why this is my answer is because I played that game when I was really young, and I got so frustrated that I couldn't beat the game, and I never did beat the game, and I've never gotten that frustrated at a video game since then. I know that there are a lot of crazy boss fights out there in video games. I've just never played those video games, so I never really had the chance to get frustrated at them. So yeah, surprisingly enough, my answer is the boss fight in Pokemon Black. Elijah Walker asks, if you could bring back one person that passed away in 2020, who would it be? If I could take away his cancer in the process, then definitely Chadwick Boseman. I love the guy, and he did not deserve to die as young as he did. What was the very first Pokemon game you ever played, and who was your very first Pokemon? Pokemon Black was my very first Pokemon game, and my starter Pokemon in that game was Oshawott. What are your top 5 favorite Christmas movies? I'm gonna be sticking strictly with holiday movies rather than specials like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Frosty the Snowman or anything like that, but in terms of full-length feature films, I think that in no particular order, my top 5 would be Elf, Home Alone, The Santa Claus, Polar Express, and Rise of the Guardians. That last one probably doesn't count, but I don't care. I love that movie. El Sancho369 asks, have you ever thought about making a gaming channel? In general, I don't play a ton of different video games, so I don't think I would make a whole channel dedicated to that. I do have Let's Play videos on my channel where I just play Super Smash Bros. And sometimes some other games with my friends, mostly Smash Bros. Though. So if you want to check those out, you can definitely check those out. We haven't done one of those in a long time because of COVID, but yeah, I don't think I would ever make a specific channel for it, but you know, if we ever got a chance to do video games again, I would definitely upload more video game content on this channel. Cody Lane the Dragon asks, who wins, Charizard versus Spyro? I would have to say Spyro. To me, Spyro just has better physical feats overall, which I think would be enough to outdo Charizard in the long run, but that is just 100% my opinion. What are your biggest fears? My biggest fears have always been loneliness and failure. I also don't like bats though. Bats really creep me out. What do you hope for this Christmas? This Christmas, I'm not hoping for any specific presents. Honestly, all I want is just to have a good time with my family, to have a chance to relax and not stress about too many things because God knows I can do that forever, and also to do some hard work for this channel. I definitely want to get ahead with some videos while I have the time off. NearXL asks, how do you plan on spending your Christmas break? Again, I will be devoting some time to just making YouTube videos, but I'll also be spending a lot of time with family. You know, we'll probably be playing some games together, watching Christmas specials together. I'll probably be eating a lot. That's something I'll probably do, honestly. But yeah, honestly, we're just gonna do as many of the relaxing things that we possibly can do while we have the time. So yeah, that will be it in a nutshell. Do you think that the Cyberpunk game lives up to the hype? Alright, full disclosure, I personally don't know anything about Cyberpunk. I literally know nothing about it other than the involvement of Keanu Reeves and just that it was a really hyped game. It sounds like some people are saying that there are certain aspects that are not that great about it, some things that definitely fall short from their expectations. So I would probably say that overall it doesn't live up to the hype, but I can't really say that for sure because I was never excited for it and I haven't played it. How do you feel about Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather? I am 100% super excited to not watch it. And then I'll get to hear everybody talk about it until the end of time. Connor Short asks, who do you think would win between Star Butterfly and Steven Universe? I know I'm gonna get eaten alive literally no matter what I say, but if I had to pick an answer, I have a feeling that there's a greater case to be made for Star possessing more power, or at least scaling to a higher level of power than Steven. But I haven't watched either of the shows, so I really can't say for sure. But if I really had to pick one, I would go with Star, but I definitely could be wrong. Who do you think would win between Jake and Finn and Mordecai and Rigby? Based on my own knowledge of the characters and based on what I've heard other people say, I think that Mordecai and Rigby have a higher chance of winning that fight. I think it's close enough though so that either side could conceivably win. But yeah, as of right now, I'm on Team Regular Show. Who do you think would win between the Teen Titans and the Young Avengers? As long as the Teen Titans has characters like Superboy and Kid Flash and Raven in the fight, I don't really see anyone in the Young Avengers that could really counter that. Of course though, you could swap out characters to your liking because there have been a lot of players on both teams, but I think under most circumstances, the Teen Titans have what it takes to win. Kathy Piotrovsky asks, who wins, Steven Universe versus Shantae? Ultimately, I think that Steven has the power and the abilities to get the leg up over Shantae under most circumstances, especially if we look at the more recent material that has come out for Steven. I could be wrong, but that's what I'll say for right now. Can I give you some fight ideas? Yep, like I said before, you can just leave them down in the comments and I'll be sure to look at them. Who do you think wins, William Afton versus Jeff the Killer? My gut says that William would most likely win that fight just because I think in general he's tougher to put down. I don't know all the details for both of these characters though, so I could be missing something big, but that's my answer for right now. Shadow Critias asks, would you bring any Ruby characters into a future episode of Who, When, and Why? Yes, I would if I heard the right matchup and I felt like I could do the characters justice. Which Ruby character do you relate the most to and why? At least from the beginning of the series, I related the most to Ruby Rose, just because I know what it feels like to try to make a name for yourself while also trying to fit in with other people. You know, I've been in that situation many times before, although I also really related to Jean, because who doesn't relate to Jean in one way or another? Jacob B asks, who's your favorite Ruby villain? Because I haven't gone through the whole show, I don't know all of the villains that exist in Ruby. Out of the ones that I have seen, I do think that Cinderfall is a fine villain that serves her purpose in the show, although I also have a really soft spot for Neapolitan because I just think she's really cool. Have you watched The Mandalorian? Yes, I have. At the time of recording this, I just saw the season 2 finale, and I promise I won't give any spoilers if you haven't seen it, but oh my god, The Mandalorian is it's just great. The show does so many things well. It looks amazing. The story arcs are amazing. Everything just works for the show. I really hope that we get a season 3. I'm not sure if it's been confirmed that we will or will not get one, but oh my god, yes, I have seen The Mandalorian and it is so good. Who would win, KINGPIN versus BANE? KINGPIN is a lot stronger than some people think, and his fights with Spider-Man prove that he should be able to handle someone with Bane's strength and speed. Bane is definitely the smarter fighter, but there's really not that much that he can exploit here, and if KINGPIN cuts off Bane's venom supply, then it's pretty much all over. Square Chair Studios asks, MCU Captain Marvel versus MCU Thor. As much as some people hate to admit it, Disney is clearly trying to make Captain Marvel like the strongest hero in the MCU. I know that Thor is very powerful and he has Stormbreaker and all of that, but I personally feel like it's just going to be a matter of time before Captain Marvel does some crazy feat that Thor just wouldn't be able to do. So honestly, unfortunately, for me anyway, I think Captain Marvel. DCEU Superman versus MCU Thor. I think this would be a really fun fight, but for me it always comes back to the fact that I don't see Thor facing off against the rest of the Justice League as easily as Superman did. Just based on the fights that they've been in, I think that Superman's power is just more powerful, even if Thor is more flashy with his power. So I would probably say Superman. Are you excited for Wonder Woman 1984 and the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League? Yes, I am, except I don't have HBO Max, so it's hard for me to say when I'm gonna see those movies. I do really want to see them though, especially Wonder Woman 1984. I loved the first Wonder Woman movie, so I'm really excited to see how the sequel is gonna do. Alt X asks, do you know of Scarface the Predator? No, I do not, but he definitely sounds like a cool character. Do you plan on featuring Scarface the Predator in your show? Because I don't really know who that character is, probably not. It might just depend on how good the fight idea is. If the fight idea is really good and I felt like I could research the character well, then maybe I would, but I think it's still pretty unlikely. Is there any likelihood for Scarface to appear in Death Battle? Death Battle has used obscure characters before, so I definitely wouldn't say it's impossible for them to use Scarface. I don't know how likely it is, and I don't know when they would use him, but still, I definitely think it's a possibility. Sakinator 3000 asks, if Nathan Drake returned to Death Battle, who do you think he should fight? Lara Croft was such a perfect opponent for Nathan that it's really hard to find another opponent for him. The best one I could think of right now is Indiana Jones, but I have some problems with that fight on its own anyway, so I don't know. I'm not sure if there's a huge incentive to bring him back, because again, he was in the most popular requested fight that involved him, but yeah, you know, it's hard to say. Pakavon Sobi asks, if you were given the chance to pick a death battle, which one would you pick? I would pick the fight Inigo Montoya from Princess Bride versus Puss in Boots from Shrek, because I think it's an amazing, hilarious fight that death battle would never do if I didn't make them do it. So yeah, I would say that one. If Goku ever came back to death battle, who would face him? It would likely either be Saitama, Sailor Moon, or Superman again, none of which I would be particularly interested in seeing, to be honest. Do you prefer One Piece or Naruto? I am so sorry, One Piece fans, but I gotta go with Naruto on this one. I never got into One Piece very much at all. It just wasn't really up my alley. Naruto was much more up my alley, and I just think it's a really cool anime. I know that it's not the best anime in the world, technically speaking, but I still really enjoy it. I personally enjoy it more than One Piece because I just don't know that much about One Piece. Steven Stryker asks, do you think it's possible for Death Battle to use Plants vs. Zombies characters, and if so, which character? I think it's possible, but I also think it would be extremely difficult. If they were to use a character, it would probably be a zombie, and in all honesty, they would probably use Dr. Zomboss just because all you really have to worry about is finding a super smart scientist villain character with an army, and that really shouldn't be too hard if you want to turn that into a death battle. When do you think Wiz vs. Boomstick is happening? That's been confirmed to be the finale for the whole series, so probably not for a long time. Who wins, the Predator versus the Great Mighty Pooh? I have no idea who the Great Mighty Pooh is, and looking him up did not help me at all in terms of figuring out how well he would do in a fight, but I'm just gonna say that he would win, because having the Predator lose to a guy named the Great Mighty Pooh is just funny as hell. Thomas Wiersama asks, who would win, Hinata from Naruto versus Spider-Man from Marvel? I imagine Spider-Man just has better stats overall and has the experience necessary to win. I do think that Hinata does have ways to put down Spider-Man if she got more experience as a whole, but in general, I think as of right now, it's more reliable that Spider-Man would pull off the win. Have you played Killer Instinct? I have actually never played a Killer Instinct game. They look fun and I would really like to give them a try at some point, but no, I have never played one. Who would win between Archie Silver and Tatsumaki? If Archie Silver is as powerful as it sounds like he is, then I would probably say that he would have the upper hand over Tatsumaki overall, but that's just my opinion. Akira the Kitsune asks, which characters could fight Midnight from My Hero Academia on Death Battle? I think it's very hard to find a good opponent for Midnight. Literally the best one that I can come up with right now is Poison Ivy, just because they both have similar personalities, and they both have powers that relate to like pheromones and aroma and stuff like that, but even then I think that's a terrible idea. It's just the best one that I can come up with for right now. Frankman asks, do you think that Dragon Ball is the most powerful anime universe? Dragon Ball is definitely a very powerful anime world, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's the most powerful out of all of them. There are a lot of very powerful anime worlds besides Dragon Ball, like Saint Seiya and Sailor Moon, and probably a lot of others that I just have never heard of before. Dragon Ball is definitely very top tier, but I can't confidently say that it's the be-all end-all most powerful anime world. Would you want Spider-Man's Spider Sense or Daredevil's Radar Sense? The Radar Sense is more powerful than the Spider Sense according to Stan Lee, but I think that the Spider Sense is just more versatile in its applications, as it makes me a better fighter and it allows me to sense literally everything around me. So I would probably go with the Spider Sense over the Radar Sense. Do you have a comic book collection? I have a lot of comics around the house, but the comics that I do have don't really make up a full formal comic collection, just because they're kind of scattered from series to series. In fact, the only full comic series that I actually own is The Umbrella Academy, just because it's short and I was able to pick all of them up pretty easily. So I do have a lot of comics, but I've never really gone out of my way to collect all the comics in a long-running series. Character War asks, if you could have one stand from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, what would it be? I'd kind of want to have Magician's Red, if I'm being honest. I think he's really cool looking, and I think commanding him with all of his fire powers would be really awesome and fun to do. If you could have one quirk from My Hero Academia, what would it be? I think I would probably want to have Tenya's engine quirk, just because I've really always liked the thought of having super speed. I thought it would be really fun, and I think it would be really practical in a world where I don't have to fight a super villain every other day, you know? So I would probably say that one. Who is your favorite and least favorite Overwatch character? I typically lean more towards Genji for my favorite, and I really want to see him pop up in a death battle at some point against someone. And for least favorite, I'm not saying that I have a least favorite, but it's definitely May. Marlon Cardoso asks, if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? Again, generally I think having super speed is really awesome. It's really fun and it's really practical in this kind of world. I know that there are a lot of other superpowers that are really cool, like super strength and flight and telekinesis and stuff like that, but I personally think that I would get the most out of super speed. Do you like dogs or cats? For me, it's dogs all day. My dad and my brother are both allergic to cats, so we've actually never had a cat as a pet. We've only ever had dogs. So yeah, I'm contractually obligated obligated to go for dogs over cats. You understand. If Death Battle makes another hand-drawn fight, what would you want that fight to be? Oh, Bugs Bunny versus Mickey Mouse, 100%. I don't even think I need to explain why I want that one. Khalil McCaskill asks, who would win, Megatron versus General Zod versus Lord Frieza? Assuming we're not using some sort of ridiculously powerful one-off version of Megatron, I'm ruling him out just because I think that while he's very, very, very powerful, I don't see him being at the same level as the maximum potential of either Frieza or Zod. And between those two, I think there are definitely circumstances where Frieza could beat Zod if Zod didn't have a lot of solar power stored up and if Frieza powered up quickly enough. But there are always, of course, going to be circumstances where Zod just has too much solar power for Frieza to be able to handle. What's Up Plus Ultra asks, who would fight Izuku Midoriya on Death Battle? I think that Gon from Hunter x Hunter is probably the most likely opponent for Izuku to fight at some point. I've also heard the potential opponent of Kamala Khan's Ms. Marvel, which I actually think is a pretty underrated idea. But still, I think that Gon from Hunter x Hunter is probably the most likely opponent. Between Spider-Verse, the comics, and the video games, which Miles Morales is the best? The very best one, in my opinion, is the one from the comics, just because I feel like the comic version of Miles possesses a certain level of nuance that the other versions of Miles just don't have, or at least they don't have yet. But I feel like my favorite one is the one from Spider-Verse, just because that movie made me fall in love with the legacy of Spider-Man, and I just think the presentation of Miles is amazing in that film. So I think the best is from the comics, but my favorite is from Spider-Verse. Who would win, Miles Morales versus Izuku Midoriya? This fight is kind of a can of worms for me. I'm not really sure who I think would win right now, but I'm willing to bet that if Deku doesn't already beat Miles, he will grow in power to the point where he will surpass Miles, probably by quite the margin. So again, I'm not really sure who I would say would win right now, but I think over time, Deku will grow in power to surpass Miles if he doesn't already beat him. Son of a Pirate asks, could Batman beat Green Goblin without prep time? That would definitely be tough for Batman to pull off just because of Green Goblin's physical superiority. I think Batman's utility belt might allow him to pull off the win sometimes, but in general, I think he would have to resort to leaving the battle and then coming back to beat Green Goblin in round 2. Has Doc Ock ever fought Green Goblin? I don't recall that fight ever taking place in the mainstream comics, although of course I could be wrong. If you're talking though about looking across all the Spider-Man media that have ever existed, then yes, I'm sure that they have fought each other at some point. Are you still having fun? With this channel? Yes. With this Q&A? Also yes. Although, good God, I've been here for a while and my legs are starting to cramp. Lucas Green asks, how many Saiyans does it take to kill Superman? Again, this kind of fight just really depends on how much solar energy Superman has at the time and how powerful the Saiyans have gotten. If we're looking at like infinite power Superman or Superman Prime 1 million or something like that, then I don't think any number of Saiyans could take him down. But if we're looking at just quote-unquote normal Superman, I don't think it would take too much more than 1 to kill him. Although, of course, I don't know the exact number. What would your 3 wishes from a genie be with normal genie rules applying? Well, first I would wish away all of the world's problems, because if I knew that I could do that and I didn't do that, then I would just be kicking myself for the rest of my life. I would also wish for a ridiculously high amount of money so that I wouldn't have to worry about not having enough money for anything. I could just remove that stress from my life. I know that I would always have enough money for whatever I was doing. And I would probably wish for a superpower, probably super speed. Believe it or not, I wouldn't wish for anything like 1 billion subs or anything like that. I would much rather earn that rather than just be granted that by a genie. Do you think that we will beat COVID-19? Here's the thing about that phraseology though. Literally no matter what happens, as long as we move past the virus eventually, we're going to say that we beat it. The only way that we wouldn't say that is if like literally everybody on Earth died. But other than that, no matter how bad things get, as long as we move past the virus at some point, we are going to say that we beat it. So I guess the real question here is whether or not we're going to move past it at any point ever. And I do think that we will, but it's going to take a very long time before it's all beyond us, and that still incredibly sucks. And that brings us to the end of the Q&A. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give this video a like, comment your comments down below, subscribe if you could too, that would be amazing. If you have any follow-up questions for any of the answers that I gave, make sure to leave those in the comments down below too. But no matter what you guys do, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.